Welcome back, Thomas. How are you today?
I'm great, thank you, Dharam. So we have a break in Germany of snow a little bit, and it's getting colder. Though it's winter time. Maybe some hope for it. We have Christmas. We didn't have
Good.
white Christmas for some years now.
Yeah, I'm sure that's the fun. You're going to have Iceman and you're going to have Santa. Actually, you can be the Santa for this year uh,
Yeah,
with your long beard and, you look perfect now.
yeah, it's not so long, so I cut it every few weeks, and it's all over. There is something nice. It's a nice landscape, and you can do great pictures. On the other hand, you can also fall and break your leg while you walk with the dog. So it's both.
Let's enjoy every moment, whatever we get.
Exactly.
And that brings to our today's topic, which is very interesting, succeeding in project economy, changing scenarios. So let me start with my first question. What do you think about gig economy disruption in current scenario? And
Yeah,
can I continue with my second part as well of the question?
sure.
And what are the significant challenges and amazing opportunities the project economy is going to bring to us?
Okay, two parts of the question. The first one is about the gig economy and what does it bring and disruption in the current scenario, and the second is what are the good things of project economy, where gig economy in project management is a part of, and your question reflects on there is a growth in gig economy, and that's certainly true for the US. And if I talk to my US friends and colleagues and where they are, so there is a lot of gig economy going on. And it's not so much the case in Europe, actually. Still in Europe, people are more focused on building teams and having employees on a company so that they can share a common culture and build the culture and build some benefits out of that. And if you look at Japan, for example, it's not a big deal yet. So the gig economy, though the term of gig comes from the music and art performance. Some artists, they go in a club and they go for a gig. That is
Yeah.
something they might be paid for normally, or they are not paid for. And even the gig economy is or music performance. These are sometimes people who don't know each other, but they are jazzing along, maybe playing around something. And so if the audience likes it, that's fine. Though they are satisfied stakeholders. Um, and the gig economy in music and art, it goes against what you see the bands that might develop an album, with 10, 15 songs on it and
Mm.
carefully put together, like the Rolling Stones now. They had their latest album this year, after, I don't know, 20 years or so. And they certainly planned a lot for it, and they had something in mind. You would expect, you know.
Mm.
That's not a gig example, what the Rolling Stones did with that. Though you might, and not even if they go on a tourney, they have some several thousand people in a stadium and they sing for them. That's not really a gig, it's all planned to the last note, coming out. Um, and why is it so strong in the US? Well, I haven't read any research on that, but I think the individualistic performance is very strong, recognized and appreciated in the US. You are looking a perfect skill for your task, and you're getting this person on board, and you're happy to pay a lot for that. So these are the good things of the gig economy. If you can, like a mosaic, putting together your team with the people you need. But the other part of the gig economy is if you are just let's say a common programmer, like thousands of them on the marketplace, you are certainly competing about money, So, and with now, what impact has gig on project management? So I see that project managers are asked to come in and lead a project in a company, and so when can they do it? And sometimes it's a little bit hard for them because they don't need the environment, they don't know the situation, and they don't know the team, and then they have to rely on the formal parts of project management. So what is the problem? What is the scope? And they look for that, and they apply maybe things they have learned at other companies to that company. And this is danger in itself. And they might be positive about the people, but I've talked to many, and they are not positive about people becoming in a company and the team that who is that, and it's difficult for them. So the positive thing is of the gig economy that for the company, it's flexible. You can just bring somebody in. Maybe you have a certain period of bring him onboarding, as it's called, and then you make sure that he brings something, some knowledge with him that is innovative, and although it's in this environment we have right now, the remote working, it's also very easy for people to access the work if they are there. So I have a friend, and I meet him tomorrow in a call, and he's working like that in Germany even, but he has a hard time finding new gigs, because the gig economy in Germany is not so popular, let's say, but exactly what he does, he says, I come in if you have a troubled project, and I bring with me the experience to save troubled projects. And yes, he's living from that, with a relatively high salary. But most people who are coming not as a trouble saver, but as normal people who are working on something, they have a hard time. So what is a negative thing with the gig economy? And it's that often people feel exploited if they are trying to offer themselves, and then they get a job and they don't get a higher salary for that often, because they are told, okay, you only work 5 hours a day, and you don't have to commute, and these savings, although you have to calculate that. So exploitation is certainly a topic, and if you look at people who are in that economy, they feel exploited. They feel often. Is a job insecurity, because I was mentoring a young woman in Texas, and she was on a project as a contractor in the gig economy, and she was leading a small team within that project, the wider organization. And then suddenly the company stopped the project, and all of them were laid off. It's very insecure job. And if you would have been not a contractor, but you would have been an employee, you would have stayed on the company and being assigned another job, another project. So this is something. And it's also inequality. If you come in, and what she told me, what the case is, employees are valued much more than gig workers.
Oh, yeah.
So inequality. It's not women, men, or black and white or whatever. It's an inequality from the kind of a commitment you have from the company, And as a gig worker, the commitment is short term, and it's probably lower in the benefits and in the salary. So you have a company car maybe as employee, but as a gig worker, don't think about it. Same with maybe some benefits like health insurance or so. So there is a lot of negative things with gig, and it's with the majority of the gig workers, while the benefits are more on the company sides.
Yeah.
But if the workers are negatively affected, there's also reflects back to the company culture and the mood in there. So yeah, that's about gig economy. And so as I said, it's very different in different areas of the world.
Yeah, I mean, this is, I'm sure it's growing. I've worked, I think Australia also have this culture. You will get hired for 1 month, 3 months, 5 months, 12 months kind of thing. And you do a particular project and then you're out. And, it's interesting concept because one is you get paid higher sometime, and you don't have to worry about all the processes which employee has to go through, the IDPs and individual development plan or training needs. I mean, which are important from the from organizational point of view. But the expectations are very high. You're going to be charging so much money, but you come as an expert and you go to from the day one. You are doing job. You don't have time for learning curve or something else. So, and also you said, you can be given 24-hour notice and, your contract is finished and we'll see you again if we have the job for you. Then suddenly you're out of job. So look, these are advantages, and like if you are such a good expert, you will get more and more gigs. And you will be in demand. But yes, if you are somebody who's learning early stage, it's better to stay in the company, learn from them, and then if you feel that you have enough expertise, then this can be for you.
Mm-hmm. So two examples, recent examples. I had one. I mentored one project manager in India, in Mumbai. So he was working for a company and doing projects, And so I helped him to get a job offer in Germany, and he comes here. And actually tomorrow.
Oh, okay.
First time he leaves India, and he comes to cold Germany and he starts working here. And this company is not looking for a geek, they are looking for employees that can foster their growth, and help them to grow that. And they have even set up a long-term plan for him. So he will stay here in Germany without family for half a year and learn about the company and all that and do some real work on projects. But then he is expected to be sent back to India for a year and build a company there. So a small company for them. And interesting if that works out. So he has the half year time of not only inhaling the German culture, which is needed because it's a German company, and also the culture, how they are dealing with their customers, and then he can combine this with the Indian culture and see what's the best way to create a company in India. So not a gig worker. Now it's somebody they're looking for to become part of their family, and it's a family business actually. Yeah.
All right, good stuff. Thank you. My next question is: how does the project economy reshape traditional business structure and operations?
Yeah, there are several ways you can look at this. So project economy is everything what is coming out of the term project 50 years ago when it was defined. So then we have programs and portfolios, and we have all the influence on operations, and that's how the project economy is now targeting more and more the normal operations of companies, because changes come more frequently, and they come within a year, and you have to react to them, and then a project approach is a better approach, and that's what project economy actually is. So what you have with project economy regarding the question, how does it reshape traditional business, is that operations is now utilizing the thinking of project management to react to external stimuli and and set up and react to that, or even if you see opportunities to start new things. So it's a structured approach how to deal with change, if you want. Second thing, project management per se is normally a cross-functional business. So while an organization might be structured in a hierarchical way, and you have divisions and support functions and whatever, so in projects you normally find people from different of these divisions and departments, and so because if they are needed in that context to change something, you need all these skills, and then they are part of the team, even if not full-time, but they are part of the team and it's cross-functional, which reduces the effort for communication, because these guys go back to their department, let's say finance department, and they share what is going on in the project, and the finance department can be aware of it. And doesn't rely on, let's say, official project report information, steering committees, or so on, which is also happening. But this cross-functional speeds up communication and understanding. And then you have the resource optimization. As I said, this finance guy is in my project, but this finance guy might be also in 2 other projects. So if I don't need a full-time finance guy, but I need him maybe 1 or 2 days a week, this guy can work on other projects, or even within the finance department on operational things. So resource optimization is another benefit that is brought forward through project economy into the business as usual, And we have a lot of other things. So one philosophical view, and I might come back later for that, is in operations, in business as usual, you normally set up annual targets, So you plan for next year, what the portfolio be, and what resources do I need, how much do I want to have money invested, and what should be the outcome, and so on. But annual targets are for many industries no longer sufficient, really to survive and to strive and to catch opportunities. So we are seeing a shift from the look for annual targets towards strategic guardrails and objectives and goals in the thinking. And this is then best organized in projects. So I think this is a philosophical shift we are seeing, that we go in more and more into targets. Interestingly, the Chinese are a step further, and because Chinese really don't care so much about objectives and goals, they more care about principles, how to do things, and then they will prepare the environment and the and parameters that are needed to have some success, which is not necessarily upfront planned. But yeah, okay, this is the project economy output, and there are several other things we could talk about. Didn't we even have a discussion about the project economy in business as usual, and how maybe what I said there is also of interest if you look at that.
Yeah. So the concept you mentioned about project economy, like you have traditional projects, $1 million, $1 billion works, and then you have production operations going on. In between, there can be a group of people, they're looking after the operations project. And actually, I was responsible for that team. We call it DST, Dedicated Support Team. So that team was consist of 10 people. It has all the business analysts, project, all the team members and your testers, everybody in the part, and I'm the project manager. And any operations change request, that has to come to me, because they are not too big, like 3 months or 30 days work, or any new marketing initiative which they want to launch a faster pace, they used to come to me. So what we did, we created the umbrella project, all the planning, everything is as umbrella, like all the governance structure or the financial arrangement, all happening under one project. But these changes come and go, and reprioritization happening as and when needed. And I'm directly working with my counterpart, changing the priorities, stop this, start this, stop this, start it, which is, and it was very efficient, actually. It was tested and tried, and I think they're very successful in that way.
Yeah, I think it's a good example of how, first the cross-functional, because you had all the different skills you need for changes and for estimation, whatever, in that team, and they are available, and then you can react to things that come in outside of the existing portfolio.
Yeah.
And then you can decide what you do with these things, is there an ROI or whatever, and then look at that and change the portfolio.
Yeah. And when I was doing my PMP application, I was able to use that experience. When I did my pgmp application, hang on, that's actually program as well, because interdependent projects. Then I was doing portfolio management. I can use it because I'm working as a portfolio manager as well. Anyway. So look,
but this what you showed us your experience. This is some years ago, So it's not a really new concept, but it's maybe common sense how to deal with this kind of frequent changes.
Yeah, exactly. Instead of having every time follow the full project life cycle, and you spend a lot of time, and that's what PMI also talk about. We have framework, tailor it as per your need. If you're running a bigger program, you have a lot of things to do as expected. But if you're running something 3 months, why you go through whole entire pain of creating all the documents?
Yes,
have a standardized structure and standardized processes already there. You just follow them.
Right. And this is also a good example. Some people think when they come new to project management, there is something like very fixed 5 phases, the waterfall. Or there is a very strict Scrum process with sprints, 2 weeks, and yes, it's there, and you should be aware of this. But what you do is more or less common sense, and you have to have the confidence from knowing a lot of ways how to do things, to select the right thing. So if I only know a hammer, everything looks like a nail. This is a famous sentence. And but if I have a whole tool set, in my cellar, and thousands of tools, so I just have to know what is there and what is appropriate for that situation.
Yeah, exactly. Good, thank you. All right. What are the potential roadblocks when project economy relies totally on cross-functional teams for success? And the second question is how to tackle the conflict between technical and non-technical teams?
Yeah. Well, technical and non-technical teams mostly are the people. Technical teams are the people who are executing the project, who have other skills doing that. So in software, these are the programmers and testers and the guys who know how to create a functioning software. On the other hand, the non-technical teams are then often the business users, that the people who should use the stuff. And to be honest, one way to look at my career is I was always a translator between the two worlds. So the role of the project manager is very important to make sure that you translate between these groups so that they understand each other, they don't fight each other, they don't get frustrated with each other, but they are understanding what's going on. And not the technical guys alone can solve a business problem, and not the business people alone can create a technical solution that solves the business problem. They have somehow to come together and maybe think about being creative and doing that. And the project manager can be the translator between the two groups. So how to do that? As a project manager, you have to foster collaboration. You have to make sure that people talk one-to-one. It's not only meetings, because
Yeah.
meetings tend to have a kind of mood, and process setting up, and a group thinking process. So you have to look at uh, bringing the humans together, the people together, and maybe why not create pairs if you can do that, So, and also you have to make very sure that the mindsets don't clash, So what you need to have to enforce the values of respect, the values of changing perspectives. So am I able to change my perspective? Or even the best way would be to embrace pluralism, not only diversity, that I accept that there are diverse people, I accept it, but I don't do anything. Only when I work with these diversity, when I leverage their capabilities and their knowledge, their point of views, then it's better for me and the project. And this is also a part of translation. Translation is, we have a common term, so you understand this, you understand that. No, let's try to have a common perspective on that. Yeah. So roadblocks are the communication barriers. So if you don't talk to each other, if you write documents and the other don't like to read documents, you have conflicting priorities, you have different work culture in business as in technical. So there are a lot of roadblocks, and this is a task of the project manager, make sure these roadblocks don't exist anymore or can be overcome.
Yeah, I think in this kind of situation, when team is built using cross-functional teams coming from operation, coming from IT, from different part of IT, database team, and security team, that's where that if you go back to the Tuckman ladder, TUCKMN Tuckman ladder, you remember that forming, norming, forming, performing, adjourning. Yeah, so you may have to watch for that, because when you're forming this kind of team, initially everybody excited to see each other. Hey, thank you, and we're meeting, and finally we are getting, working together. And soon their own individual personality will come in picture, and that's where the storming start. Me the best. I'm the best. I've done so many things. I'm the top performer of my group, and so on. And you need to bring them by having team activities or bringing them together. Conflicts will be there. You're resolving those conflicts in the shortest possible time. So the storming period has to be reduced down by your creative thinking. There are going to be problems. You need to find out how fast we can come out of the storming and get into the normalization and performance stage.
Yeah. Well, it's storming, when a team is not led through this phase, there might be people creating roles for themselves, and the corners in the team, but you have to understand that it should be a cohesive team which leverages its diverse capabilities. They have to be ordered. So it's a good idea, for instance, to make sure that the roles are defined up front, and let's now see who can do what, and also it's another good idea to have a kind of cultural workshop. I did that for most of my SAP rollouts, cultural workshops a day or even more, so that people from different cultures understand each other, to create awareness, and then working on that cultural diversity and leveraging it for the benefit of the project is the next step. And as you mentioned, the Tuckman letter, I think the work starts even before, because whom do you select to be on the team, and even before they come into the phase to meet each other, and I think this is often overseen, because you only look for skills, maybe. But you should look for attitudes too, and how do they fit together, and this is something I'm always looking for. Sometimes you have a team you have to work with, yes, but if you can, and if you can hire people, and there were projects when I was working 1 day a week for selecting and hiring new guys for the project team, and then you can apply your criteria, and they should not only be skills, experience, or whatever, but do they fit into the team culturally?
Yeah, that's where I mean, it can be good area when, especially the team coming with their own strength. And as a project manager, you need to understand, okay, this coming from this strength. You do the SWOT analysis and then find out what weak areas. Okay, we have the weak areas, but this will be covered by this group. They are expert in this area. So that's where you find the best. You are given all pieces together, and all puzzle pieces. You need to bring them together to have a picture. The vision.
Give you an example, a recent example. That a team, and I'm doing that analysis of teams, so the hum analysis, and so when everybody says, okay, this is my temperament, and I looked at all the temperaments they told they have, and what was really lacking was someone who would go into a tough negotiation, and being willing to go in a conflict and being comfortable with that. And I say, okay, you are a team, but who of you will go into that negotiation situations? And we will have a lot, because our scope is contentious, and maybe not everybody likes it. So we have to have people who can go into meetings and defend our case, and not push through, but be tough enough to bring us success from these meetings.
Exactly. All right. I mean, that's where the team and the specialist in that area or expert in that area can handle. Yeah. So, how do emerging environmental and social responsibilities influence project priorities within the project economy?
I think, there is some influence, and it's promoted by some of these project management associations, including PMI and IPMA, and you name it. There's even a green project management association, and they try to do that. So the topic of sustainability with the United Nations SDGs, is now something that is being regarded by a lot of projects. But my personal view is, in the end, this is maybe a constraint or a requirement to be considered, but one of many. And if you have a cost down project, and doing this and that, then maybe you will reply to that requirement not in the way that others would, though except you have regulations. So if there are regulations, if, let's say, in the EU we have a social responsibility regulation, and you have to tick it off, then you might look at this requirement a little bit more. But on the other hand, regulations normally don't apply to projects, but they apply to organizations more. And as we have seen with ISO 9000 in the quality department, there was a quality department, and then there were the projects. And not always they were overlapping a lot, but the quality department under the regulations, and the projects did what they needed to do. And so it's certainly something that is commendable, but I'm not sure if it is successful in the end. If we have more and more big troubles like climate change, like migration, like cost down wars, and so on. So now, if you look at the war in Ukraine, they came out that they are polluting with CO2 in their weapons. Both parties are polluting the world very much, and they are throwing us back years in having a handle on these environmental factors that we see. What is also an aspect of that social responsibilities is the DEI movement, diversity, equity, and inclusion. And that's also a little bit contentious. So every organization has a DEI person, who shall bring it forward. And also here, I think what is the case on a project? If the project manager can select the people, maybe not the first requirement is to have diverse people inclusive on the project team. No, they want to focus on the customer requirements. So yes, there is an influence, and the influence is there in regulations, stakeholder engagement, DI, and so on, UN SDGs. But I'm not so sure how that influence will sustain on the project level.
Yeah, I mean, as a project manager, we should be aware of all these responsibilities or potential impact of your project on environmental or society or anything else. And we need to take right actions accordingly so that we take care of the environment. If there's the impact of the environment, and of course, if you're going to have a chemical factory, there will be impact. So what do? Of course, you take some measures to avoid any pollution going into the air or into the water or into the soil. So,
but that's again a component of regulations, very much. Yeah, and you see chemical plants in, let's say, developing countries, are not so much regulated than those, let's say, in Europe or the US.
Yeah. So in Europe, US, Canada, yes, in Australia, there may be regulation, but in many countries, there are regulations, but how many of them are following? I mean, there are always a middleman or somebody you can take the money and you can shut the mouth. All this happening. So,
and the interesting thing is, in these developing countries, who is developing the projects? It's the same multinational companies that are doing the projects differently in the developed countries. So, but okay, that's a political thing again. But again, the question asked is how do they influence project economy and projects? And I think yes, there's an influence, but it's a little bit artificial.
Yeah. Okay, can you discuss the impact of projectification on an organization's core strategies and value creation?
Yeah. So projectification is defined, in my view, as the increase in using project management ideas, contracts, concepts, and it's a sign. If you have projectification growing, then it's a sign that project economy is growing. So it's a symptom of project economy, if you want. The organizations. What is the organization? First, the organization has a purpose or a vision. Why are we here? And I don't see that projectification is much targeting this vision, because that's something the board or CEO points out. They may use projects to develop some vision statements or some input for that, but I don't see that is very projectized. Same with the mission. What are we doing? Though you see both vision and mission also on a project. You hopefully have a charter, and the charter points out what you want to achieve, and why you want to achieve it, and it somehow guides the thinking and can guide your decision making if you are in a water that is not really showing which way to go. But you have a vision, you have a mission, then it can guide you, on a high level. And then what is helping is organizations also have a culture.
Yeah.
they have it if they want it or not, but they have a culture. The culture is based by principles. You can put it down and say, okay, this is how we behave. And I was working for IBM, and IBM we had I think 200 pages guide. What is the business behaviors, and this was somehow codifying our culture, with the values and so on. So this is certainly something that could be developed. This such a cultural guardrails through projects, and then strategies are coming. Well, when you set your targets, 5-year targets, 3-year targets, or whatever, and you set up your portfolio of programs to achieve these strategic targets, strategic goals, and that's certainly, I wouldn't say projectification, but programification, because the programs in the end, they spill out, the benefits and the achievement of the strategic goals. And the programs itself, they want to use projects for that. So yes, so the environment changes more frequently. So strategies have to adapt more frequently. So programs do what programs do best. They monitor strategy, they monitor environment, and they adapt their roadmap, to the environment. So this is, I think, the impact of projectification, more on the strategy level, less on the vision and mission level, because why are we here is not a question that a project can really give an answer to.
Yeah, that's very important to recognize that the work, whatever work you're doing, is now shifting towards project, and treating that as a project. So, having the knowledge of project management and all those things will help, of course, and knowledge of the business will definitely help, and knowledge of strategies and value. What are we creating? And your project has to be aligned with the strategies, ownership strategies, and at the end of the day, we are delivering value for the customer.
Yeah.
Good. How will the project economy transform workforce model?
Workforce model. So my workforce, these are my human capabilities I have in my organization, and certainly the project economy, and we discussed it in the beginning with the gig economy, and this is certainly one of the things. So we use more freelancers, but this can only be done unto a certain account. So I worked for a company, and they had about 120 employees in the project environment, and then they had about 100 freelancers, gig workers, and they broke down. It was not possible because these guys were technical guys, and they wanted to do the technical guy, but they were forced to become project managers. And to organize all these freelancers to bring them to a benefit, So, but it helped the company to have phenomenal growth in 2 or 3 years of time, because you cannot hire so many people and build an employee workforce only. So you have to rely on additional resources. So what they did is, they try to identify the freelancers they want to do business on the longer term, and they elevated them to a partner level, and so they stayed for several gigs projects of the team. And the second thing they did, to tackle that problem, was to outsource some stuff, so free up the amount of efforts the workforce has to do, and put them actually to India, and so what else changes? It's remote work for certain. It's maybe not the outcome of the project economy, but it's the outcome of the environment we have. Now internet is there, everybody can work from remote, and this will be done. Outsourcing was a predecessor of that somehow. Another thing is we focus more on skills, not so much on job roles,
Yes.
So I'm maybe except for management or for project management, but um, uh, yeah, we are looking for people who can do this and that. So I was thinking about SAP, and so they looked for people who know SAP supply chain management.
Yep.
So this was a skill, and they needed the technical skill, but they were also aware once they have implemented it, there is no need for a full-time employee. So this was something where they hired a freelancer for a certain amount of time to implement a change in the supply chain, and then they let him go because SAP is so wealthy in this functionality. If you want to cover all of the SAP capabilities with your own employees, you need several hundred people, and that's not feasible. You have to go for a balance here. So yeah, that's the changes with remote, with freelancers, and as I said before, the problem is how to coordinate all these people and to bring them into projects, and that's where you really can, and we discussed about the Tuckman letter, you have to select the right people on board, then teaming, Tuckman letter, care about the culture gap. That's why I did these cultural workshops. And also you have to monitor what they are doing. It's not only if you have a freelancer who's paid by hour.
Yeah.
You don't monitor what he's doing, you will spend a lot of money for nothing. And you also have to establish what I call claim handling, because people would claim against this freelancer or whatever, and you have to make sure that you are capable of dealing with these upcoming conflicts until before they explode, before they go to a court or whatever, that you have this kind of skills to manage the conflicts. That's all, I would say, in the hands of the project manager.
Yes, actually, it's very interesting topic itself. How to structure the team. You have permanent employee working there, loyalty, and all kind of roles and responsibility defined for them. And then you have team. As a contractor or a gig specialist, they come and go, do some work. The problem with that is a lot of knowledge is going away as well. They do the work technically, all the technical things they did. Suddenly, if you don't have maintained the documentation, especially if you're working in an agile environment where people say, hey, no documentation required. No, actually not. It's not like that. You still have to do. But if people don't do any documentation and there's time for them to go, then you lost all the knowledge.
Exactly. That's a big deal with these new workforce models, because in the end, the capabilities you have in your workforce, fluid, and you have to somehow make sure it stays within the company because it's something you invested in.
Yep. So they did the work, you got the faster result, but at the same time, when the problems are happening, you don't have any documentation to follow, or you don't have the right skills around you because they're gone. You cannot keep them in the operation because they're too costly and they cannot be around. So you lost it. So that's where the project manager has to recognize that that's one of the risks and try to have the knowledge transfer and knowledge sessions happening much before the project is finishing. So the knowledge is captured, maybe not knowledge, but maybe have some recordings or whatever work they're doing. So and also part of the lesson learned, you capture the lesson learned and learning from that. Yeah. So yes, we are ready to move into, or have been doing this kind of work anyway for a long time, but we need to find a smarter way to be in control of your projects and the knowledge you gain throughout this.
So, but when I was talking about this one company where we also had outsourcing, and knowledge management played a big role in outsourcing, because we required the outsourcer in India to establish a knowledge management system so that what they are doing in changing the application all the time is properly documented and can be transferred back to the company once outsourcing should be over. or transferred to somebody else.
Yeah, yeah. All right. How does the agile mindset contribute to navigating uncertainty in the project-driven environments?
Yeah. Well, if you follow our discussions, you will see that I'm not a fan of an agile mindset because it has been hijacked by people who are trying to get some profits from that. But okay, I think there is not one mindset that should be my mindset for life or whatever, what I think being able to change perspectives, being able to change mindsets, being able to change point of views, that's a capability that should be there. So there are situations when an agile mindset is appropriate and useful, and there are situations where, let's say, other leadership styles are appropriate, more appropriate. If you have a emergency, catastrophe, whatever, you can't do daily stand-ups and all this stuff in scrums,
Yeah.
and even agile is not a point. But you are looking for a leader who is giving you the drumbeat, and now we do this and that and that. You can watch this in fire departments. When department rolls out, there is a strict hierarchy in these fire department teams that are dealing with situations, and they are agile in a way that each situation is different, and they have to adapt to situations and use the right tools, but they have also some principles. And the first principle is save lives, So regardless what is happening there, get the people out of the danger zone, and make sure they are surviving for whatever. And and these principles guide their behavior and their selection. So what you need is have some principles in an organization, and one principle is there is no one mindset that helps us. It's all situational because we are living in the world that is changing and we have to adapt.
Yeah. All right. Let me move to the last question here. How does the concept of project success assessment contribute to the ongoing enhancement of project delivery?
Yeah. What is project success?
Yeah.
And to be honest, I in the last several weeks, so I was looking a little bit in research on project success, and there are so many views on that.
Yeah.
There's a vast amount of dissertations and papers and everything about project success. So what we always have to do is also situational, So you have to find out what amounts to project success. And then you can see how project delivery will achieve that success. And how do you find out it? You talk with you talk with the guy who's paying for you, the sponsor. And so because he or she defines project success in the first step, but then you also talk to the other stakeholders, and you will find out there are a lot of parameters that define the success. And that's why, we almost always come up with the three corners of the magic project management triangle. Do I have the scope? Do I get what I think I want? How long does it take? When do I get it? And what do I have to invest? What does it cost me? So these three things always are and criteria you look at. But I've seen so many projects where the sponsor says, I don't care about money, but you have to deliver on Christmas. Yeah. So, and then there's a clear priority, and this gives you a good hint to do that. But nevertheless, you have to look at money anyhow, because
it cannot be blank check.
Yeah. And then you look at these big construction troubles, Sydney Opera House, Hamburg Philharmonie, or others, or Berlin Airport. they all went in over budget tremendously, and over time, they took much longer than expected. But now all of them are considered to be huge successes. So success is also something that has a life cycle, So in the beginning of some things, if you ask the sponsor or the stakeholder, success might look different than after 5 years, after 10 years. They have a long-term success. So it's always good to assess what is meant by success on an ongoing base. Maybe that changes because something happens.
Yeah. Look, as you correctly said, there are so many ways we can define the success of a project. And every stakeholder, we have their own views, their own expectations. So that has to be understood. And whether success is during the project, after the project, or after many years of the project.
Yeah.
And how are we assessing whether it's based on the time and cost or quality, or maybe stakeholder expectation you managed, or maybe the benefit you got? Let's say you talked about the Sydney Opera House, which, initially, if you look at all these numbers, if you look at the metrics, these are total failure. Beyond, the budget versus the actual was, of course, if you do the earned value calculation, negative, and or 0.00 something, and the same with the schedule. But now, if you talk about Australia, you talk about the Opera House first, because that's the iconic building.
Right. Nobody wants to miss it.
Exactly.
And the money that spent then is now very cheap now. Nobody cares about that anymore.
Exactly. So
to give you a small example of a project, it was only a short project. Actually, it was maybe 3 or 4 weeks, and it culminated in a weekend where we migrated within the data center from one computer to another.
Yep.
And when we were done on Sunday evening, the sponsor of the customer, he hugged me, and the success was, as he stated, you made me feel good.
Oh, yeah.
And, it's if a customer or a stakeholder or a sponsor says this to you, you are successful.
Yep, you delighted your customer.
Yeah.
Yeah. So look, there are many things, we can keep talking about this, but whether your sponsor who paid money and he, at the end of the day, he got the result, and at the same time, your client is happy, but your organization may not be happy. It's why? Because you delighted the customer by giving the exception service, but you don't make enough money for the company.
Yeah, and it's all of money. I ran a program for an investment bank.
Yeah.
And, we had a budget and everything, and for sure. But, they didn't care about money. Why should they? They created, but what they cared for is punctual delivery of the functionality they needed or they wanted,
Yeah.
And, I made them feel good because, even if it costs a little bit more, they got the functionality though that they could play with their numbers. So.
Yeah, look, we can keep talking. This itself is a big topic, the success criteria or, all this thing. But thank you very much, Thomas, once again. Yeah, it was very informative. Lots of information shared and discussed. And I hope people watching this, podcast are benefiting out of this. And of course, if you tell us that you're really benefiting, that will be encouraging for us. We are bringing topics after topic, and tell us which topic we can bring more and talk more, and more question we get, that will be great. And yeah.
True. We are here spilling out experience, and you got to use it.
Yeah. If you don't use it, with whether this talk is waste, probably not. But if you're not benefiting, somebody else benefiting. And it's a very competitive environment, guys. So whatever you learn from each other, from anybody else, you need to learn, keep learning. And I'll tell you one example. I'm working with US Army, number of senior, they are retiring very soon. So they said, Dharam, everybody has PMP, and if I go with PMP, I don't have competitive edge. So that's why I'm doing pgmp or pfmp. So I have a competition. I'm ahead of them. So look, this is all about learning and growing, and what can help you to grow into your do your job better, basically.
Yeah. And look at my pgmp. I retired from IBM, and then I did the pgmp.
Yeah.
After being a program manager for 12 years.
Exactly. And it's about knowledge. I do get people, they are in the 60s, and sometimes actually I have a person in 70s. Says, hang on, why are you doing pgmp? Oh, Dharam, life is about learning. It's not about my job, but I want you to, until I'm alive, I want to continue to contribute. Yeah. So there you go. So keep learning. Guys, there's no age. If you're young, don't think you're too young. If you're old, or maybe you're thinking you're old, look at us. We are 100 plus at the moment. We're still talking. Thank you, Thomas. Thank you for all your knowledge sharing. And thank you guys for watching. And hope to bring you more and more discussion points.
Thank you, Dharam.
Thank you.